Welcome to Serial Podcast 9.
Good evening and welcome to Serial Podcast 9. I don't know. Fuck.
Yeah,
right?
you just say, hi, I'm Gerard from SerialNine usually.
So lame. Could we do something better? Like, welcome to Serial Podcast 9. I'm Gerard.
And I'm Kevin.
And I'm Ryan. And this is Serial Podcast 9, as Gerard already told us. Okay, good.
Okay.
I feel like you haven't listened to the podcast in a long time.
Me?
Yeah.
Maybe just not the intro.
Why?
Yeah, the intro is like literally that robot voice being like, welcome to Serial Podcast 9. What are we talking about tonight?
Today we're talking about gatekeeping. Are you a gatekeeper? Are you being gate kept? What does any of this really mean?
What the hell is a gatekeeper?
Well, I think we should define what gatekeeping is first. So who wants to define gatekeeping?
Somebody who knows what it
Ryan
is.
Benoit wants to define it.
I'm so long-winded. I thought I would get Kevin to do it and it would be the best.
Just make it as fast as you possibly can.
Okay, so correct me
Give
if
me
I'm
a too
wrong.
long didn't read, you know?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. The idea of gatekeeping is someone acquires all of the knowledge, has just a bunch of wisdom and knowledge about a scene or a subject, and they stop other people from entering that scene or acquiring knowledge from the subject. It's like almost like being an elitist and not letting people enter the scene because they aren't up to par with like your level. Is that fair?
Let's what's an example?
Here's two Hondas that, like Type R spoon parts, and they have all the rare parts. And this guy has like an entry level Honda, and he comes to the meet, and these guys won't engage with him or answer his questions because they are gatekeepers. Essentially happening is the gatekeepers are keeping new people from joining the scene, which stops it from expanding. And then like the person who's like doesn't have the money to buy all the cool parts, or who is like new, never really progresses in the scene because there's no mentorship for them. There's no one to like bounce ideas off of or tell them what is cool or how to do a thing. And that I think was the example that I was given. Somebody
when someone shows up with a hella whack car and you just like laugh at them and make fun of them rather than like hopefully like try to teach them how they could do it better, you know?
I would even imagine that like Final Bout could be seen as like gatekeepers to like a style of drifting, right? Like a little bit. You got to apply to get in.
Okay.
There's a bar.
Conversely, is there anything good about gatekeeping? Like, what if you're trying to preserve a certain level of, like, exactly that, like Final Bout, like you're trying to preserve a certain level of quality cars, quality builds?
I'm pro gatekeeping, I think.
I mean, you know.
Okay.
Is anyone counter gatekeeping?
I mean, I can kind of understand a little bit of like the counter gatekeeping where, yeah, like maybe you're scaring away new people because, but
I mean,
but yeah, also it's like a multitude of scales of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like all of the car shows that are worth going to these days.
Are gate kept car shows?
So at the beginning of certain trails, there's a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is basically an obstacle or some sort of more technical gate, if you will, where like you have to have a certain level of truck to pass the gate. The trail itself may not be as difficult as the gatekeeper, but it's kind of like to weed out any shitty trucks or groms, or basically to keep most of the people out. Unless you're like hardcore enough to like either destroy your truck on the gatekeeper, or your truck is just gnarly enough to pass the gatekeeper with no issues. So it's kind of one of those things. I guess that's the same thing. It's like you want to have sick cars at your meet, so you're going to have like a little bit of an elitist attitude and a little bit of gatekeeping, if you will, because you don't want like XXR wheels at your meet.
Yeah, get those the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm with Kevin though. Like there are multitudes, and I will say like I'm pro gatekeeping, but I'm also like I do think everyone should also like operate with tact and like generally like try to be somewhat respectful to other people.
Yeah, I think when you're an arrogant gatekeeper, it's pretty lame. Like I understand, like it's a rite of passage. Like you can't just be like, yo, my car is sick and my car is sick. Well, maybe it's not sick. And like, you do have to somehow learn what is and isn't sick depending on what scene you're trying to get into. You know what I mean? So, I mean, honestly, that's like an interesting aspect of it. So when does a guy go from like, I built my first car on ESRs, and then he's like, yo, I'm going to get some like better wheels. Like, is it because he gets clowned, or is it because he actually realizes that ESRs aren't nice? Or is it because like where's the turning point there?
I mean,
Because
I don't know.
there is a certain kind of person that buys.
I feel like you clown your friends on like their like the shit
Their
that's
wheels,
up about
yeah.
their car. Like,
Yeah, but
But what if they don't? What if their friends don't care?
yeah. So, but this is the part about gatekeeping that like we're not really getting into. We're saying there's these newcomers, and they show up, and they're like, "Oh, nobody wants to talk to me about this. They're just an arrogant gatekeeper." The thing that gets me about that is like, it's kind of like the sense that the people that are being gate kept, also sometimes there's a sense of entitlement that comes from them, where it's like it's like, well, I like cars and you like cars. It'd be like, hey, Kevin, you have a Toyota and I have a Toyota, so why aren't we friends? And then you're like, I don't know, man, like we just don't have anything in common. We're like different people. And then I'm like,
I mean,
fuck you, you're arrogant gatekeeper. Like we both drive Toyotas. We should be friends.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, like there's,
how
I
many
mean, getting
text
kind of getting where you fit in, you know?
Yeah. And how many messages do you get from people just being like, wheel specs, what arrow is, and not even like, hey man, really like your car, think it's dope. I was just curious, like, what wheel specs are you running? So when I say tact, I think there's like,
Yeah.
there's a sense that sometimes, and I imagine you guys get this more than I ever would, but it's like you're used as Google, right? So it's like, hey, you know everything about the scene. Just let me ask you a question. And then it's like, if you don't respond, then it's like you're a gatekeeper. Or if you're like,
Yeah, like that's definitely like the complete counterpart to it, I would say, where like it does seem like people have way less respect for perhaps people who have acquired the knowledge over that amount of time, and then approach those people, with that tact.
or
But
lack thereof, like no tact, right? Like, and that,
yeah,
the reason why this got me so much is like I watched that video where the guy explained it with Hot Wheels, and he like made fun of the guys, and he's like, and then they drive off into the sunset, and this new guy isn't part of the scene. I was like, yeah, but the guys that have the two cool cars are probably friends and have been friends for a while. You don't have to be friends with anyone. Like, you, just because someone has that car doesn't mean that you have to be friends with them. You should always be polite and tactful when you communicate with people. But also, it's not just like, oh, hey, you're new to the scene, let me take you under my wing and like show you around, like a younger me thought that I had to do that, and I learned very quickly, it's like, man, just because somebody has an S13 doesn't mean I have to be friends with them. Like, we're very different people, and we mostly just fight about things, and like I got those people out of my life fairly quickly. I don't know, that's my kind of like take on it. It's like I do think there's both sides of it.
Yeah, I'm a bit detached from that aspect of the scene, obviously, because like, we're, I guess, technically SerialNine is almost like gatekeepers just generally, because it's like, you have to have a certain type of car. You have to have, I don't know, like maybe a certain level of car, because you're buying fucking SerialNine parts. Like, you know what I mean? You're not, the people that buy SerialNine aren't the same. I mean, they might be the same people that buy Megan, but I feel like there's a bit of clout sort of like associated with that type of car or SerialNine parts, because they achieve that sort of car. You know what I mean? It's like, or I mean, yeah. So once in a while we get those weird DMs where it's like a guy with a completely stock LS400 from like some really far away place, and he's like, I want my car to look like this. What do I do? And I mean, we have to be like, you need this, and this, and this. So basically, you need to spend like $4 or $5 grand on suspension, and then you can achieve that. And he's just like, well, okay, I guess, or like, that's really expensive, or like, are you sure there's no other way to do it? And it's like, well, I sell these parts, so I'm not going to tell you some other way to do it. Like, I'm just going to tell you this way. So I mean,
why are you gatekeeping on the No, I'm joking. Sounds like a real gatekeeper.
Tell me the budget way.
Yeah. How dare you? Why aren't you letting new people into the scene, Gerard? The guy just wants us to have a sick car for no money. And maybe if you listen to our money
why can't you
episode,
write
you'd
out
know.
like a 45-page essay with photos describing what to do to every single part of the car to make it sick
But
for him?
but guess what we actually do? We do that. I do that. I've definitely spent tons and tons of fucking hours on Instagram, like, forums, and like Facebook pages, like trying to explain to people like stuff. You know what I mean? It's like I definitely like am that guy to like. I think educating people is like a way kind of better way to do it. Like maybe they just don't know. They maybe they think ESR is the shit. You know, who the fuck knows? They don't like. If you can give them a reason why one wheel costs $1,000 and one wheel costs $100, and it's like a legitimate reason, maybe they're like, oh, actually,
I guess I'm just really mad at people that are gate kept.
gate kept or gate.
Yeah. No, I'm mad at people that are kept by gatekeepers, because it's such a whiny attitude. I feel like it's such a whiny attitude from a lot of people being like, "Wow, this guy won't tell me anything." And it's like, yeah, not everybody's going to tell you everything, and sometimes you're going to have to go do the work yourself and like put in the time and do the research.
It's like, hey, Gerard, what happens when someone messages you and says, what suspension do you have on your car? Do you take the time to explain every single part you have on your car?
I have
No.
definitely, yes.
No, you're just like, yo, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, I mean, like I would, yeah. I mean, there definitely are times when I'm just like, yo, like it kind of depends on how the guy words it usually, or like
Tact.
what.
yeah, tact. Exactly.
Exactly. And it's like if the guy's like, yo, what suspension do you have in your car? Like legit, like that's the actual question. I'll just be like, dude, like you're literally on my fucking Instagram. Like you could just go back a little bit through the photos and like look at the actual suspension on my car. And like you would assume that a SerialNine car has fucking SerialNine suspension. But like maybe he meant coilovers. I don't know. People sometimes ask like, you know, what you know,
So
coilovers.
if you give him a curt response, like, are you a gatekeeper now? You know?
I'm going to say this. I've noticed, unless it's just for me, I can't comment on your stories anymore, Gerard.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
no, for a while now.
For a while, I'm like, oh man, Gerard got tired of
Like, turned it off, yeah.
like questions.
No, not at all, dude. See, that might be some. Honestly,
That's why
like
I like screen captured my like the part from my car that you took a picture of. Is like, yo, what's this? Because I couldn't comment on your story. Yeah, no more messaging the business.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's super bullshit.
I don't know why you're gatekeeping knowledge.
Where would I
Yeah,
even
man. I'm just trying to
fucking
ask you
find
wheel
that?
specs. What are the wheel specs on the Aristo in this photo?
Not even what are. It's like wheel specs ? Oh, and then I'm always the one that's like, oh, thanks, man. Let me get those for you. Here's an article I wrote. And then it's like, why am I being so nice about this?
Where would you even find
You're
that?
a nice guy.
Yeah,
Nobody told me that you can't comment on my shit anymore.
I just thought you knew. And then right before I asked, I was like, I wonder if he just made it so I can't message him.
No, fuck that. Why would I?
I don't know.
That's so stupid.
The things that go through my head. I'm like, maybe like that's a weird thing. So I was
Hey, Ryan, how many of those? How many shirts he sold?
which ones? I haven't sold any.
That one.
I haven't advertised them, so I haven't sold any.
I thought I saw it once on Dodo Logic's Instagram story.
I haven't posted anything yet.
Yeah, you gonna make me one of those?
I could say like you're probably seen as a bit of a gatekeeper.
Okay,
I would think so.
Sorry, there's the Crushing It shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that one not new too?
That's brand new. Yeah.
Crushing it.
Yeah.
How
So
come I
not
can't
just
see
the
this?
Neko, not just the Poutine Cat one that you're
There's
wearing.
3 new
no?
shirts, but I haven't advertised any of them.
Well, can we buy
Then
them?
how did I? Yeah,
Yeah,
you just
but-
go on their website.
Yo, how come you spelled Dojo Logic with a C and not a K? It would have been kind of sick.
Well, fuck, if I had a
Logic.
time machine.
Dodo
That's a
Logic.
whole other story.
Because then it would seem exotic and like you'd be like think it might be German or something.
Exotic, more exotic. Yeah, like Dodos than.
That version shirt is cool. Ryan, make us.
Well, I was drunk when I made that, so
Well,
I'll
there
just
you
get
go.
drunk and make more shirts. Okay, you guys, we are all over the place. The thing with gatekeeping, I feel like coming up, everyone was gatekept. Like if you went onto a forum, and this maybe goes back to your original point, Gerard, where you're like, when does someone like realize that ESR wheels aren't cool? If you went on Zilvia and you were like, look at my car on like knockoff wheels, you'd probably get torn apart until you're like, oh shit, nobody's gonna dig this. I better buy better wheels. You said that you ran into issues with British Ford guys because you didn't have the Lotus version of the car or whatever, and they were gatekeeping you. And that probably fueled you to be the current version you are of yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe for a bit. I just bypassed the gate, man.
Well, no, they gate kept you a bit. They're like, we don't want to talk to you. And like 16-year-old Gerard with whatever haircut he had at the time was like, fuck this shit. I'll show you. Kevin, you and I came up around the same time. You were on forums. I mean, you had a Fueled by Hate sticker on your car. Or not Fueled by Hate. It was...
I don't
no.
Kevin definitely never had a Fueled by Hate.
No, he
sticker.
didn't.
No.
It was the dudes were laughing at
Never.
the dudes were mad at your car and you loved it. That's what it was.
But Kevin was actually Fueled by Hate.
He was actually literally Fueled by Hate.
He didn't need to put the sticker on there.
Yeah, fuck that shit. He didn't need to name
honestly though, because I was thinking back right now, and I was like, yeah, I could kind of think of like lots of times I was gate kept on. Like I remember like going to my first drift event and like dudes were laughing at me because like my car didn't have enough mods. Like it was literally like a stock 8.6 Corolla, like that I just took all the interior out of. And then like I remember other times where like dudes were laughing at me because I paid shops to like put my coilovers in, and like same thing. It was just like, well, like I don't know how to do it. Like what the fuck else am I gonna do? Like,
right.
Yeah. Trying to think.
I mean, I guess I could have learned and like whatever, and like that was eventually, obviously, I did, and like what?
yeah. I mean,
you're a gatekeeper.
But yeah, I mean, maybe that was just. But I do feel, there does need to be some level of gatekeeping, and like. But then, I also thought about other times where, like in the beginning, same thing. I'm like kind of this nobody kid, and I go to the shop, and like the owner, like. It just doesn't give me the time of day at all, and it's just being like kind of a huge asshole, and like it stuck with me forever, So then I was trying to think like, man, like have I been like that? And then I was like, man, I've definitely been like that. Like I've definitely been like, man, like who is this absolute nobody or whatever, like showing up here? But I try to be respectful and nice, and
but it can be tough, and like it can be especially if someone feels that it's owed to them, right? Like if in the same way that someone that feels that respect is owed, like, hey, I've done all this shit, my car's really cool. The same side if someone's just like what I said in the beginning, like, oh fuck, we have the same brand of car and I think your car looks sick and one day my car will be sick. That's probably not enough. It's like when Gerard told that dude, it's like, it's going to be like $4,000 to make your LS look like that LS. That's a ton of money. And it's like, yeah, now Gerard just took the time to educate you. And either you can go ahead with it, you can leave the scene or find a cheaper way. But, you're kind of, I don't know.
I mean, that's a perfect example because like there's dudes in Russia or like fucking Latvia or something that chop their fucking stock stuff up and their car externally looks like these crazy cars with Tiedemann and all that stuff, and they still drive it around and it's still super low. It does everything, but like those guys somehow either have the knowledge or the drive to just like make it happen, because maybe that's all they got. They maybe can't afford the Serial 9 or they can't afford the Tiedemann, but they know what it's supposed to do. So they're like, well, take this arm, chop this up, weld it together, fucking see what happens. And then
know what I mean? We could do that,
Yeah, we totally could make a car into a Serial 9 car without any Serial 9 parts, but like
don't tell anyone.
Like, just a bunch of tubes and some like sheets of metal, like angle grinders and a welder.
Yeah, I mean, or like
nothing to do for a week.
You could do it better, but still, I find a lot of it, the gatekeeping is dependent on the person who's potentially being gate. It's like if you're a fucking idiot and you're asking like really not stupid questions, because I guess technically there are no stupid questions, but like you had no motivation whatsoever to educate yourself first and you're just basically like, you feel like you're entitled to get the answers from like somebody. Like you're basically trying to be spoon fed.
I feel like, you know, like we're pretty good at like, if you are polite and come to us like that, we are polite and we're going to give you what you're looking for.
Yeah,
But if,
100%.
you know, if you come to us with no respect at all, then that's the exact kind of response you're going to get, you know?
Yeah.
But then that's what I wonder is it those people that then are turning around and being like, yo, fuck these guys, fuck gatekeepers, I'm trying to get into the scene and they wouldn't give me the time of day. But it's like, yeah, because the way you approached it was super shitty. And that was kind of the vibe that I got when I like started like reading and looking at people posting shit about gatekeepers, like fuck gatekeepers. It's like, I think you're kind of looking at this the wrong way. I mean, like, look, there are obviously, I'm sure I've been gate kept from things. But oh yeah, you don't make friends with people just because they have sick cars, right?
Not necessarily.
And you're not friends with people based on the knowledge of the cars that they have, because otherwise we wouldn't be friends.
One thing I will
concluded
say,
that at this point.
one thing I will say though, if you had a bunch of like snowboarders in a room, it's going to be easy for them to all be friends. If you have a bunch of like car guys in a room, it's probably going to be easy for them to all be friends.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't mean you're going to like go home and they're going to be your best friends and like all that.
No.
But like,
I mean, I think there's the initial sort of like, yo, that's sick. And then whether or not the person's cool or not sort of establishes whether you're going to continue to be better friends. Like you, you always make friends, especially like for us, like with JZX guys, like we're pretty much friends with most of the JZX guys in the community. But like, do we hang out with them all the time? Not so much. But I mean, I'm also 45 years old and have a family and shit. I don't hang out with that many people.
Like when we started doing Dota Logic in Regina, I remember people were very upset. Like in
the in Vagina.
Yeah, people were okay. We're all adults, Gerard. You just said.
I just thought it was so funny.
Okay.
Anyways, go on.
When we started doing Dota Logic in Regina, Saskatchewan, I remember people were very mad that we started it. Like it was, you know, they're like, oh, you started they're like, you're a crew, you've drawn a line in the sand, and like what kind of, and it was very much the sense of like, what gives you the right to do this and say what's the thing. And it was kind of like, well, because we decided to do it, like we were doing it. And
I
think what that's called is haters.
Yeah. But then but then haters might call it now gatekeeping at the time, right? Because it's like you go to a car meet and why don't you take photos of my car? I had people be like, I'm at a drift event. I'm at every drift event. Where are my photos? Like when we did drift events, it was like, why is there never any media of me?
But that doesn't sound like a tactful approach. That doesn't sound like, hey man, I've noticed you've been out here at like 4 or 5 events, and like I also really noticed like there's not really any photos of my car. Like, you know, like what's going on with that?
Yeah, why don't people just look inward as a slight and be like, I'm not good enough?
Honestly, that's a fucking awesome question, because some people, I don't know, maybe it's the parents they had, or they're just they don't know how to do that. They don't.
Lack of parents they had.
Also, I don't think that's a generational thing. I'm going to put that out there. I never tried to like shit on younger generations. I think that's because like I always found like coming up in the car scene, older people would shit and be like, well, the younger people are doing this. I'm like, look, man, there's dumb fucking old people in the car scene too.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
There's always been those people. There's always been the assholes. There's always been the people that are entitled to think that you should just spoon feed them every bit of information or answers or like recipe to build a cool car. And there's always the people that like are super, like they just want to know everything. So they do all the groundwork and they just want a little bit of your expertise, not like your whole fucking plethora of knowledge. They just like, yo, this guy knows way more than I do. I've kind of like hit my limit as to what I know. And I just need to get more information from somebody that's like above me or has done more than me or whatever. Right.
No, I think that's exactly it. But gatekeeping seems like it wasn't always a thing. Like I don't remember being in forums and people being like, this is gatekeeping. Or
oh, buddy, you were never part of JZX project. JZX project, massive gatekeeping. Like you had to get basically like shit on. Like there was like Zilvia and like Ziptide. I guess it was Ziptide was like pretty gatekeepery, but like JZX was brutal. It was basically like take all of the outcasts from like not only like Ziptide, but like the world. So now you get all these outcasts and they're into these super weird, obscure, stupid ass cars. So now they think that there's something because like they can gatekeep this tiny niche of like a fucking car market.
Right.
Yeah, that was probably like one of the like the most brutal forums. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Like
It
in
was
what way? Like
stupid.
the way
like
people.
if you didn't like if you asked a question that had been answered multiple times, like yeah, you just get destroyed.
Yeah,
or
But
like
they
I feel
wouldn't
like
say-
that's every forum. So
No.
tell me more about
No,
why.
they would like call you names. They would say you're a fucking idiot. They would say you don't deserve to be here. You're a piece of shit. Like it wasn't like you ever heard
I feel
of
like
the
that would
search
happen on
button?
like literally every post all the time on that
Yeah.
forum. Like
Yeah, there was
like I
like
said, like I was on Ziptide. Like Ziptide, same thing. You had to like fill
Prove
out this
that you drove, yeah.
application. People on the forum who
put,
already
like
had
naked picture girls or something.
had to like submit that you were okay. You had to like write out a story. Like you had to show your car. It was like this whole fucking thing, you know.
yeah.
Did you
Get
get
onto
in,
this
Kevin?
fucking forum.
Did you get
Yeah,
in?
yeah.
Yeah, of course you did.
I don't know. Whatever. That
I
was
don't
like
even
the-
know.
That
Nobody
was, like,
I was-
fucking gatekeeps Kevin.
that was like the forum days. No, that I mean I don't know. Like that's what I mean. Like
I don't
know.
think
I've
I
been
was in. I might have been on Ziptide. I can't remember. I definitely wasn't active on it. But yeah, JZX Project, like, and it's funny too because these like elite gatekeepers or whatever were like actually not super knowledgeable or super anything. They were just like the biggest asshole people that like felt cool because they ran some shitty. They didn't even run the forum. They were just on the forum, and I guess like people started thinking it was cool that they were just so brutal. So then they just continued being more
I
brutal.
feel like maybe it was like a lot of those people. It was a really small, tight knit forum of people who were into a very specific thing.
Yeah.
There was another forum which at the time which was like Cressida.net.
Oh god, Toyota
Yeah,
Chrysler.
exactly. So like that was like the like Facebook.
What oil do I use?
What oil do I use? Like, hey, like where can I get like one replacement mud flap? Like, you know, like these kind of questions.
Yeah.
Like that was Toyota Cressida.net. And then JZX Project was like all of the dudes who were trying to put like 19s on their X8 and like
No. I mean, maybe there were some people, but like everyone was like not trying to put 19s on. But yeah, they were trying to put like 18 by 10s. So like 19s was a bit too much. They were like, that's insert fucking stupid word here.
Good. But I feel like every forum had its like there was like the hardcore one, and then there was like forum light version of that car that you were into, right? Like
unless you were into Cressidas and there was only two forums, like S chassis, there was like
Zilvia was the one. I feel like Zilvia was the one, and then I think there was like.
But then there's obviously going to be your regional forums, like
yeah.
Though Zilvia was like a pretty respectful, like just like a good.
I remember back in the day, like Nasonic.
No, it doesn't like, Nasiok or whatever.
Yeah, like there'd be like information on all types of cars on that weird Subaru forum way back in the day. Like I don't know like why.
One, right? But I remember like Nico. I think maybe there was like
Nico was Nissan one.
And that was, I feel like maybe the not as like style heavy as Zilvia, but Zilvia, like I feel like adhered to it. Like,
I mean, Zilvia was probably like a good car, whereas like Ziptide was like a cool car. Ziptide was like Final Bout before Final Bout, honestly.
Ziptide was just like if you drifted, you could get in. Like not you could get in, but you had to like prove yourself.
Yeah, you had to fucking kind of be
like
cool.
You had to have like kind of cool cars, or or at least be like a cool person. Or
yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah. Like I kind of like
because that's the thing is like you could fully get in if like all of a sudden like your membership post has 90 people who are on the forum being like, yeah, this guy's dope, but you're like, you literally have no car. You probably still get on, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Forums felt like prison rules, no matter where I was.
It was
sort of.
It was.
You find the biggest guy in the forum and you take a run at him. And if you topple him a bit, if you get like some good digs in, then you get some respect. But if not, you get put in your place real fucking quick. And you like, you scrounge around at the bottom and you like learn, you take your licks and then you work your way back up. But it was always, it felt like prison rules. Because like the thing is like realistically, I'm not a very technical person. I've learned enough about like the social settings of what cars are like from forums that it helped me navigate like the car community. Anyway, so
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
like,
I'm not sure I totally follow on that one.
I know. It's like,
well,
I'm pretty
Well,
sure
no,
you
but
didn't
a
learn
little-
how to like talk to people through
No.
forums.
well, no, but a little bit, not like learned how to talk to people, but even back in the day when I was on forums and there was like a Regina, like local forum, I was dubbed like JDM nice guy because I was always nice to people. That was like, oh, like I was always courteous. I would sometimes like make fun of people and take shots at them. But at the end of the day, I always tried to be helpful. There were guys that definitely knew what was going on and they would put you in your place very quickly. And then there was other dudes that wanted to be that way. And I think that became a very good understanding for just like the worst case scenario, what the car scene.
it's funny because on that JZX project forum, like I was never that asshole. Like I kind of just never really gave a shit to like be that asshole. I just kind of thought that whole thing was pretty stupid. So there were a lot of like new guys that came on, and then these other guys would like talk shit, and I'd just be like, oh well, sort of here's the answer, or like you could do this or you could do that, and it was always kind of refreshing because those guys would be like, hey, like thanks for not being a fucking jerk and like actually answering my question. And it's like, yeah, like it's unnecessary, and it's kind of just like, yeah, like you're gatekeeping what, like a fucking like a disgusting pond full of shit, and like it doesn't even like, what are you even trying to protect here? Like you don't even have any knowledge, so like fuck you and your stupid gatekeeping, right? Like,
Well,
like,
I mean,
I
isn't
agree.
that like the whole like hierarchy of like you have to go through the 10 levels of questions to reach Gerard? There's 10 levels of gatekeeping, you know?
Yeah, there is. Like there, you got to go through the levels. If you're gonna
Yeah,
talk
you
to
got to go
Gerard.
through the pond. You got to
Yeah.
pass Kevin and the pond. You know, eventually you get to Ryan in the hill, and eventually you're at Gerard in the mountain. You know,
in the mountain.
I think we've described a very accurate way of like how to be polite and still helpful to people. But in the same token, it's like if you're gonna do a car meet, like if SerialNine's gonna do a car meet, it's not gonna be like first come first serve. Like you're gonna put all the dope cars in the area where all the dope cars need to go. Like that's just
Yeah, I mean that's a perfect example is a block party.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it was,
put all the cool cars in a row, and then like tons of things are like that. And then
yeah,
people,
you know, like not everyone gets to get into the college course that they wanted or the college that they wanted.
not everybody,
you know?
not everybody gets accepted to Harvard. Like that's
yeah,
just
exactly,
the way
you
it
know?
goes.
exactly.
We used to do car meets, and it was like anyone could come. So like you'd have this car meet in Saskatchewan, and it'd have like 600 cars at it. And then
So like 200 Mazda 3s and like
yeah, well, just a bunch of Subaru Imprezas.
of course.
But that was the thing. And then like there was no
wait, 600 cars?
Yeah. Total Logic's defrost, maybe even more than that. Defrosts and fallouts were like very big. People would come from Manitoba. People like it was.
That's a fucking huge meet.
Yes, it was. We were.
Fuck, you're a big deal, man. Shit, way bigger
not
than
any-
9.
Not anywhere
Yeah,
here.
we've never had a 600 person car or
No.
anything.
The thing is, though, is that not every car there was cool, right? And then we would allot private parking for the cars that we knew that were cool, and those dudes would show up late so everybody could watch them drive to their like cool parking spot. But part of the problem is that we didn't gatekeep those events enough, like because it was free. You didn't have to do anything. There was no sense of pride, like to be like,
just show up in your
me.
Astro van with rusted out fenders.
Some people or someone would be like, I spray painted my car in my garage last. Everybody would bring whatever they had, and it was fine. But then as it went on, it descended into chaos because people didn't take pride in it. And by the time I moved away, the guys were still doing it. And you had just like a bunch of degenerates like being like, do a burnout, drift the corner. And it's like, yo, man, like we've paid to rent this parking lot. We've paid for an insurance, you know, like, and you're pissing people.
It's probably hard to police 600 people.
It is. And then because there was no sense of pride in it, and all the dudes that actually cared about the scene were like, yo, you're going to fuck this up for everyone. And then they did. Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is that at the end, we didn't gatekeep. And then
bro,
the people who were gatekept overran the prison yard and like caused a riot. And then they're like, well, shut down the prison just to execute everyone.
Yeah, no, I mean, gatekeeping is still alive and healthy. So it's not like we haven't been shut down. We're still
Yeah.
oppressing. We're still
Gotta keep-
fucking imposing serfdom upon them.
Yeah, well, we didn't. We let him slide, and that's the utopia that all the respect all builds want. That's what happens when you respect all builds. Pandemonium and chaos. Do you guys respect all builds?
I respect all respectable builds.
Respect all respectable. That's not a bad
Yeah.
catchphrase, actually.
No, that's
But I mean, that's the thing. It's like I don't have to respect all builds. All builds aren't a build. If you put some time and effort.
You said they were kind of. You were like, maybe coilovers and wheels are a build. I don't know. Like,
I mean, it depends on the car, man. If you bought a brand new fucking car and you put coilovers and wheels on it, that's like kind of a build. But like, you didn't buy some fucking JZX90 and put coilovers and wheels on it. It's like that
Right.
shit comes on those cars. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So respect all respectable builds. Do you ever feel that you are currently gate kept from anything?
yeah, man. I don't have a fucking Porsche Taycan to go racing at the Porsche Club, or a Porsche, even a fucking Porsche Cayenne or Porsche anything. So I'm gate kept from racing in certain places. Like I can't race my Blit against those guys. I have to race it against some other fucking guys.
Who are you gonna race the Blit against?
no, like honestly, if you're racing the Blit, you'd be in like the highest class because it's engine swapped and.
Oh, I mean, that's, if you're talking about like, if I'm like racing, but if it was a track day, like, I'd have to go against everybody track day. I can't race with the Mustang Club. I can't race with the Porsche Club. I mean, there's no fucking Toyota race day. Like,
You go
there could be.
dude, honestly, track racing, super gate kept. Like,
so
Honestly,
high
drifting
entry
was
fees?
gate kept for the longest time.
yeah,
They
but
like
now
looked down
at
on
it.
drifting so hard, and
Oh,
we
yeah,
never,
absolutely.
Yeah, like kept out.
like
Yeah,
even right
they
now,
were-
like we're kept out of fucking Penticton again.
well, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing is like when drifting was new, every road racer looked at drifting like it was like the fucking scum on the bottom of your shoe. They're like, like non-racing line, you're wasting tires. Like, they probably just, I remember people saying, they probably just set it up with like the shittiest tires in the world and like tons of cambers so it'll slide around. And it's like, well, actually, no, these cars have fucking tons and tons of mechanical grip and like tons of horsepower to overcome that. And like, I remember having an argument with Formula D. And he was like a knowledgeable guy, like a racing guy. I was just like, man, like,
why was he at Formula D?
or it might have been no, sorry, it wasn't Formula D. It was at a track day that I did for Kumo or something. And he was like a knowledgeable, respected SCCA racer. And we started talking about drifting. And he was just like, drifting, fuck. This is when drifting was like real new. And
But yeah, like you think he's gonna know anything? Like,
but I guarantee you that same guy now is like, yo, drifting's kind of sick because it is mainstream.
Yeah. Fuck that gatekeeper, hey?
well, I
Yeah,
remember
road-
for like the longest time, like we could get venues that would rent to us, but we couldn't get any insurance that wasn't through the SCCA. But they wouldn't recognize
Yeah.
drifting in any way,
Yeah.
so they would be like, "No, you can't get any motorsports insurance." And then eventually, like we did get motorsports insurance, and then we were at Boundary Bay, and we'd be running. There was like 2 runways, and like we'd be doing drifting on this one, and they'd be doing their autocross on this one, and there was like a fence. They were kind of in a V, but like everywhere you would pit was like a fence, and the entire fence was just lined with everyone from autocross watching the drifting.
Mhm.
How did the autocrossers take that?
Dude, autocross people are the.
I mean, they were already
fucking
over there watching the
worst.
drifting. That that's
Yeah.
That's all,
We had the same problem when we were like planning events. Like the autocrossers, it's like I would go to like argue with them about drifting, like go to meetings and be like, they'd be like, so we're gonna build the new timing system, and it's like, okay, cool, but like we threw this giant event and it made a bunch of money, and there's clearly like money in that. Can we have some money? And they're like, no. It's like, okay, good. Why won't you, like, how many people come out to an autocross event? Oh, like 20. It's like, well, we had like 400. So can we have some money? Because like we're making people money. And they were like, nope, no, you cannot, but you will.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what's the drifting budget? They're like, there is no drifting budget. We have one big lump sum of money, and we decide as an organization what to do with that. And right now the organization is deciding to buy a new timekeeping system. And I was like, oh, Good.
You sure it wasn't a new gatekeeping system?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it was. And then we did. We tried to do the same thing. We tried to like break off and like go get our own insurance, and then we got ratted on, and then we had to go back and talk to the president of the racing organization in Saskatchewan. I was like, "What are you doing?" We're like, "Fuck you guys. We want to."
And they wonder why street drifting is so prevalent.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like when you gatekeep, people are just gonna go find their own way. You know what I mean? Like, and it's probably gonna be the improper way.
I mean, there is that, but maybe the ones that make it are the strong ones. Like not everybody finds the improper way. They find the way to do it. Is it survival of the fittest? Like you either do it the easy way, then you're a tourist in the scene, or do you like get shit on and then learn to do it properly?
I mean, honestly, just do your fucking work, man. Like,
agreed. But what is someone's work? And this is the problem that we've talked about, is that we don't really know what the work looks like anymore, because the work is like a Facebook group isn't necessarily the best.
You know what's funny is, you just hit the nail on the head, man. It's like it's the same thing as going to a fucking BMX race and getting a participation trophy. It's like you could just put some piece of shit car on the fucking Facebook forums and get a bunch of like other dorks to be like, oh, that's so sick. Like you're so sick with your 80 pounds of Bondo.
He's saying like, how do you do the work though to gain the information when the Facebook forums aren't really that helpful? How do you do the work?
But then I guess
not just go wheel specs, you know, like.
Yeah, because this is the thing though. Going back to like Gerard, when I asked you how you did it, like in the early days of like the internet not being sorted out, you're like, I had guys that I went to go talk to. I had an engine guy, and I had a fab guy, and I had this for all the like the Cortina stuff you were doing. Maybe people are trying to do that now, but maybe they're just not good at like making the connection because they're too used to it.
Perhaps, man. I mean, that's the thing is that it's spoon-fed society, right? Like I remember you had to be hungry. You had to want the shit because you had to find the shit. You know?
I'm sure there was dudes back in the day that showed up at a shop and were like just fucking awkward or entitled, and the shop owner was also like, I don't want to deal with this guy. Like, get him out of here. Like,
I mean, it's very possible that I was that guy when I went to specialty engineering. I mean, I was very specific with my wants, and like I told them, you know, this and that or whatever. But
did they do the work, or did they tell you to?
They did the work, but they could have been like, yo, like fuck this kid. He doesn't know what he's doing, but we're just gonna like do this shitty job because he doesn't know any different anyways. It's very possible that I was that guy.
But that's not gatekeeping. That's being a shitty person. Like if someone comes to you and says, I have a very specific thing that I want and I'm going to give you money for said thing, and then you're like, nah, fuck you. That's just being shitty.
I probably went to that shop a bunch of times before that and said, hey, I'm this kid and I'm building this thing and I'm fucking cool. Like, look at me. No, but like in my eyes back then, that was the coolest place you could possibly be if you were into cars, because it was like the creme de la creme. They actually raced cars. They fabricated literally everything. They made horsepower out of fucking dust, and they were crazy. So like I would go there and like fucking try to gain knowledge or talk to them and like basically probably waste their time, and then eventually brought stuff there to like get work done. But like maybe it wasn't a fucking chassis for a GT4 race car, or maybe it wasn't like a fucking titanium TIG welded exhaust. It was just like a mandrel bent steel exhaust, which still cost $950. But yeah, I don't know. Like maybe there was
in 1994, so that's like a ton of money.
Yeah, it was.
You could have bought a house with that money.
Like one thing I'll say, like I remember always just trying to hang out at places where I was like, man, these people know what they're doing. They're smart. I'm going to hang out here and I'm going to absorb something. And then, you know, like I'd fucking just be like, oh, like I'd be sweeping up like the shavings from the drill bits that are all like piled up on the floor. Or I'd be like, empty the garbage can into the dumpster. And then they'd kind of be like, yo, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just fucking standing around anyway. Might as well like do this, which like I know how to do. And then like eventually they're like so stoked and like they're just trying to teach you everything, you know, like it's like,
yo, Kevin, check out this stupid kid that's doing the garbage.
yeah. Sounds like Kevin's just trying to pitch people to come empty the garbage at SerialNine.
Hey man, you got to start somewhere, you know.
And emptying the garbages. Kevin will show me how to.
We definitely never had people like that in our shop.
Here's a question: how can someone virtually empty your garbage? Like virtually sweep your shop floor.
I don't know.
Because that's gone.
I don't want to. I almost don't even want to say this, but like, there's
Yeah, you
certain
do.
people who comment on like all of my stories, or they like say something, and eventually I'm just like, who is this person? And I reply to them all the time, and then eventually I'm like, who are they? And now I know more about them than I did 3 months ago. So like, that has obviously influenced me in some way.
So what you're saying is we should all placate
No,
you.
that's the problem. I don't want to be bombarded.
Let's just send Kevin messages. Wheel
Yeah.
spec.
Yeah. Ask
You
Alex.
up?
I don't even know my wheel specs. You should probably just message rare spec.
Yeah, he'd love that. When we were shooting Spec D, the bro down thing, I talked to Alex from Checkpoint, and he actually said, he's like, I'm fully about gatekeeping as well. And he's like, because the thing is, he's like, I wasn't shooting cool stuff, and like I didn't know as much as what was going on, and then like dudes shit on me, and it pushed me to be better at what I do. And then it also acknowledged like I'm not doing the best version of what I could be doing. And that is exactly it, right? Like that is, you go to a drift event, and we've talked about this already. It's like, I don't want to take photos of shitty cars. And then those dudes are like, where are the photos of my car? I thought I was shredding. And it's like, yeah, but it didn't look cool. Like, so I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of like the NFL. It's like you can't all be the best. You know what I mean? It's like, like if you want to be the best, and your friends all are into that, and they all want to be the best, they're all going to push you to be the best, and then maybe you can be this version of yourself that you didn't even know existed.
I do enjoy that you said the NFL, but then almost like half sang the Pokemon theme song, like
be the very best. No one ever was.
Yeah, it was like, but NFL, because it's Kevin like NFL, sports.
Yeah. Like, America, yeah.
Yeah, not Pokemon. That'd be weird.
There's no friends pushing you besides.
But
Pokemon.
Question though, seriously though, how does a guy go from ESRs to the other wheels? Because I feel like the people that get the crazy wheels, like they already know that they want the crazy wheels, no?
But maybe they couldn't afford the crazy wheels.
No.
Like I
don't know, man.
Junkyard, but I wanted Longchamps. You know,
you bought what?
Buy Longchamps.
You bought what from the wrecker?
Riken mesh.
Yeah, I mean, Rikens aren't like a disrespectable wheel.
It's not like you saved up a little bit of money to buy XXRs. You know,
yeah, that's what I mean.
I saved up a little bit of money to buy Rikens, though.
But you also bought them from the wrecker. You didn't buy them new, so like that's like, you know what I mean? Like
because there wasn't really an option for any like cool wheel.
But that's what I'm saying. What you're saying is cool
back then.
What you're saying is cool is already cool, because like you could have bought fucking. I mean, I had a butt. Yeah, I had a buddy. Well, no, maybe Rotas didn't exist back then, but there were. Like, you could have bought TSWs.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There were knockoff wheels didn't exist back then.
No, but there were wheels you could have put on that were shitty, but like you didn't think those were cool, so you already knew what was cool. You already wanted the cool shit. So the Rikens resembled the cool shit, is what I'm saying.
How to be cool?
Yeah, but I couldn't afford the cool shit.
Yeah.
So to buy a lesser cool shit.
This is interesting. I bought TSWs for my first car, but then for my 180, I remember like
But when you bought the TSWs, did you know what work wheels were?
No.
Probably not.
No, I didn't. Like that.
So when you saw works, were you like, yo, those look way better?
Yeah, I remember when I was like building that car, I sought out advice from people to be like, what is cool? And it's funny because my dad worked for Coca-Cola. That's irrelevant, but there was a dude that worked in the warehouse part there that was like, oh, I'll sell your son some wheels. And I was like, oh, and my dad's like, yeah, this guy said he'd like sell you some wheels. And he's like, he said they were the same wheels that were on the Supra and the Fast and the Furious. And then like the guy like thought he was like gonna pull one over on me.
You?
On young old Ryan here.
Young Ryan, but then he didn't like understand that like I guess like I had my
I had
brother
a
and my brother.
Super Street subscription.
I had a Super Street subscription, and my brother had like one of the coolest Civics in the city. And then my brother's best friend went on to like sell car parts for a while. So it was like, cool. What's the name of the wheels? And it was like, well, they're like Eagle alloy. And we were like, those aren't the fucking wheels on the Supra. Like this guy's like fucking trying to like screw us over. Like, and I remember being like, is that a good purchase? And then someone was like, maybe for an in-between wheel, but that's not a wheel you want on your car. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, that makes sense. Like that sounds really dumb. I was like, where is he getting this from? Why is he saying that? But this dude was clearly just trying to unload his like shitty wheels.
Trying to make a sale, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
where is he now? I'll tell you where he's not, doing a podcast with SerialNine. Fuck that guy.
He's crib keeping now.
Yeah.
Crib keeping. I guess for myself, like how I sort of figured out what was cool or what wasn't cool is like, yeah, you look at those like elite cars. I mean, from back then, it was like, yeah, I went to specialty engineering and they had like 16 by fucking 12 Panasports on their race car. And I was just like, whatever the fuck those things are, that's what I want. Those look insane. Like, and like, yeah, you could get, I mean, I had Raikens, I bought Raikens too, because like that was a 15 by 7.0 wheel that like I thought looked in the way of those Corolla wheels that were from Japan. And I mean, like, honestly, back then, like I couldn't even tell you how I would have bought those wheels. Like I only started to buy wheels off Yahoo like much later than having the Raikens on the Corolla. And like back then, Raikens were dope because they actually are Japanese wheels, and Specialty used to sell Raikens. So like that was actually like a sick wheel back then. But then obviously once you start watching Option and see like the real like Japanese style wheels, you're probably like, oh, those look even crazier than these.
Yeah, the like SSR reverse mesh is like what you wanted your Raiken to look like.
But that's the thing is SSR came out after Raikens. Raikens superseded SSRs for sure.
I mean, my Raikens literally had like no lip. But
oh really? Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Well, you found them in a junkyard. So so I'll say this to answer your actual question though. Like, how did I figure that out? I went from having a Mazda MX-3, which was very hard to buy any car parts for.
Yeah,
to
it was 400 that one.
Yeah, and like so it was like TSWs and I went to a 180 and like given like magazine culture and the things that I was following, and then some of the people that I knew, and the abundance of parts for the car at that point, it was kind of like I was interested in what was proper and acceptable. And maybe that was my friends. And I'll say this. I was friends with Adrian Amati, which he had that sexy style FC that was at Final Bout the last time we went. Yeah. And he's always had sick cars. So it was always like, he was like my sounding board. It was like, is this that? Is this a thing? So I had someone in my life that was like, people would always gawk at his car. So it was like, I knew that what that guy was doing was like on point. And he was a hardcore Zilvia dude. So like he carried himself in like a Zilvia manner on every forum. Like if you stepped to him, he would like virtually fuck you up on things. Like he would just go to town on you. So like I kind of knew that dude, what he was putting down was like the right thing. And he was like a solid sounding board. So that's how I like made that jump to like, well, how do I build a proper car? This guy's building a proper car. What's he doing? And then like I put in some work. I'd ask him some questions. I'd do some research. And then my other friend, which was Dave Golke, my brother's best friend, sold car parts. So then I'd bounce ideas off him and be like, okay, well, what's going to work for this? And then I do my research on that. And then that's how I ended up building my S chassis. But it was knowing that, like, I guess being around people that were doing like proper shit. So to answer your question, Gerard, I think if you're around people that are doing proper things, you're probably more likely to do proper stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. I had that influence from specialty engineering and stuff like that. And it's like when I first moved here, all the cars were like ex Westwood cars. And one thing that sort of resonated amongst all of them is they had wide wheels. Like it didn't matter what fucking wheels they were. They were wide and steelies with trim rings, or like they were Libras that were wide, or Raikens that were wide. And like, I knew that look was like the look. And like, yeah, like back then, wide and steelies that were 13 inches on a Corolla were fucking sick because it was like 13 by 8.
To this day.
yeah, that's still fucking cool. You know what I mean? It's like,
I guess.
yeah, like, and
Oh,
like,
man. Here's the thing. This is a thought. It's like ESRs or like XXRs, and this is like, I'm just using the fake wheels as a filler for whatever. Use your imagination. If you're the coolest dude in your crew or like out of your friends,
yeah,
and you're on those wheels, and that's your circle, and you're the one that everybody looks up to for guidance, then probably you're never going to surpass that. To quote Daryl with the JZX100, he said like that old saying, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, then I'm probably in the wrong room. I should be in the room with people that are like smarter than me and what I'm aspiring to be. And I think that's exactly it. It's like, if you're the dude, and you got to be around other people to like push you further. I guess that's how you get from ESRs to SSRs.
And I mean, I guess that's the thing, is it is a certain kind of person that like maybe they just don't see past that. Maybe that person that has ESRs just fucking wears shitty clothes too. They don't care. They don't see the rest of it. No, I mean, like it is a thing.
No,
like,
I get it.
There's that whole thing of like genuine something or like quality something or like something that has substance or stands for something. And maybe they just like don't see that or don't give a fuck or they don't know. And that's just it. They're just never going to know.
Or in the same token, it's like food, right? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Food as fuel and not as like
Wendy's, ESRs, fucking.
Yeah. And
like,
so that's it. So I think, but
I don't really think people who see food as fuel are eating at Wendy's, but yeah.
I've talked to people that
Absolutely.
I've talked to someone that's like, if it fills my gut, I'm good.
But to me, that's not the person who's like, yo, this is the fuel I'm putting into my body.
Oh, like, yeah, no. That was a different thing.
That's a different type of fuel person.
Yeah, that's a different type. It's gatekeeping isn't about knowledge. It's not about like keeping people out that you don't think that don't deserve it. It's not like, if this person's on your level, I just assumed it was like about tact. Like, and that's where that comes from. Okay.
I think it is like a little bit of that like whole group mentality though too. And like, and maybe that's only on the forum zone where it's like, like when you and like your 10 closest homie on the forums are all like, they're all chirping this one dude, like you're probably going to come in and chirp that same dude. Like, like,
well, that's mob crew mentality right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely mob crew mentality.
Yeah. So I don't know. I that's my thought on like gatekeeping. It's like it needs to exist, but I don't think it's as harsh as people like, because you often hear about it and people will be like, well, like, fuck, this is what's ruining the scene. And I've never seen it to ruin the scene. I've always personally seen it to like elevate the scene. But there are limitations to it.
I think the worst part is when there's someone who's super arrogant and trying to gatekeep, but doesn't really have a foot to stand on.
Those are the gatekeepers that give the other gatekeepers a bad name. Like, like, I don't know. The only other thing I can think of is when I moved here, I remember being like, why are all these different crews like in different sections? Like, why is everyone like sectioned off into different compartments? And someone told me they're like tax brackets. That's what it was. Just like, but it was like, and then my mind at the time, I think I kind of like made sense of it, where I was like, the dude with the very expensive Honda with all the very expensive parts that can afford all of the very like everything is probably a separate tax bracket than I'm in. And then like the dude, obviously, like, I'm not gonna hang out with like Euro, like BMW German dudes, but that's probably a different tax bracket than I'm in. And so early on, I think I also like wrote that off, where I was like, oh yeah, like tax brackets. It was like, even when like they were doing like all the filthy stuff, that seemed like a very different tax bracket than the thing that
I mean, it's not totally true, but I'm like, there's definitely crossover in between there. There's probably super rich dudes who have super like, not super expensive cars that they're really, really into.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it can only work that one way though. It can't work the other way.
Yeah. Because
there's no like poverty spec dude who just like has a Lamborghini and that's all he's into. you know, like
But then even imagine, like, and I thought about this too. I was like, imagine a dude has like, we'll say like an M3, and he comes and hangs out with a bunch of like Japanese imports, and he rolls up, and I'm like super amped on Gerard's Blit on its wheels, and it's lowered, and it's got like super like cool fitment. And then Kevin rolls up, and I'm like, oh shit, gotta get photos of Kevin's car. And this dude's got this M3 or whatever that he's like super proud of. And then I don't care about it in that scenario because it's like the things that I care about are off in this box. And I was like, obviously not everyone can live together in harmony, because it's like that dude wants someone to be amped on his car, and I'm not going to be that dude to be amped on his car.
But I think that's where you find that compartmentalization where it's like,
Yeah,
you're going to hang out with the dudes who are amped on that car, and they're going to be the dudes who have the M3s.
exactly.
And they're going to be like, your M3 is sicker than my M3. And like, oh, and you're going to be like, yo, that's an awesome feeling. I love it when those fucking guys do that.
Funny you guys bring that up, because honestly, like growing up, I never fucking had that, because I was always into those weird fucked up cars. And the only people that would like be in your crew were like other weird fucked up people. Like I said, there's like into the Cortinas, it was like the Keebler Elf and a bunch of other fucking weird dudes. And then when I was into the Volvos, it was like, I mean, even today, Volvo dudes are like kind of weird, right? Like, and then yeah, so when I was into the Pintos, that was like no man's land. Like nobody's into Pintos. And then I finally got a Civic, and it was like
You had
the whole fucking world is into Civic. So it's like, well, I finally like accepted cool, like all these things.
Yeah.
And then
by then you're already like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, but then when I went to the Cressidas, it was kind of the same things. Like I was like the Cressida guy. Like nobody was really into Cressidas. And then I built this kind of cool one. And then all of a sudden, like people were like, yo, Mr. Cressida guy, like your Cressida's sick. And then it's like now the Cressidas are kind of a thing. You know what I mean? And like, I guess now, you know, then it became JZXs and became, you know, Celsiors or whatever, 161s. And like, but yeah, you always got to have that sort of following, or like people that are into the shit. And like if you want to be friends with the people that are into the shit, you'll probably stay being into that shit. But like it's very easy to like be into something and like the people that are into it are just like not really dope, and you're just like like I'm
and I could see that being a problem, like because that's kind of the thing that a gate kept person might say. It's like, oh, the people aren't dope and they're not accepting of me. But then that's where I struggle. Is like I've never struggled to get in where one would fit in that sense, you know, like it's never been like, oh my God, like, you know, so, and that's why I always wonder, it's like, and that's in the beginning of the episode, I said, like, not everybody has to be your friend. Like you can like the same things, but that doesn't mean,
that's true.
You know, I mean, look, where I worked was very social, and there was this big debate about whether if we did a thing, should everyone be invited, or is it fine that there's like separate Slack like messaging groups for different things? And some people were very like adamant. They're like, if you work at the company, you should be invited. And it's like, just because I work in the same place as you doesn't mean I want to hang out with you. Like I will always be civil to you and polite and have a conversation, but that doesn't mean that I want to hang out with you after work and have a drink. And it was like, that's the same thing. It's like, you can't force those things on people. And the tactless seem to be complaining about their place in the gated community. And it seems like it's self-imposed.
So there we go. What did we learn?
I think everything's always been gate kept, and that's just been the way that things are. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like maybe don't complain about it as much and be more open to like feedback and have tact.
I was just thinking when you said that about us being gate kept out of Penticton and out of Area 27, and how it was like, all right, well, like if I'm going to take what we're saying and just be better and come, you know, what can I actually do?
I'm going to buy the new Cayman, I guess.
Be a sourpuss about it.
Well, okay, so rule number one, we don't be Dave Vickers and we don't go on their Facebook page and fucking call them out, which felt very, like it's a very visceral reaction, and it felt very probably good at the time. But now in hindsight, Probably
I mean,
not
it's
the
all,
best
they
business.
deleted it all. They deleted
Yeah, they
everything
deleted
anyway,
it.
so it doesn't
So-
really matter.
They gate kept it out, and then they weeded out all the bad comments. Maybe they just didn't turn on the right setting on their Facebook account, and then they turned it on. Yeah, I think for that is, I think, if we had tact and actually like proposed a business plan and we're like nice about it, I imagine it would be a little bit better. Gatekeeping, how do you feel about it? Good, bad? Did we learn anything?
I feel like it's somewhat of a necessary evil. There's levels to this shit, as the Ute say. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a necessary evil. Maybe if you don't want to be gate kept, you could approach people with some tact and politeness, and they might be more willing to give you what you're actually looking for.
And maybe gatekeepers should also use tact and politeness. Everyone should just be a little bit nicer to
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah,
We're all
there's
just humans
layers
here.
to this shit like tiramisu. Yeah. Anything, Gerard, that you can think of? You're a gatekeeper.
I do have something. It's just do your fucking work and like try to learn a bit about the thing before you try to approach the gatekeeper and be like, give me all the answers.
All right. Thanks for listening to Serial Podcast 9. Thanks
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Serial Podcast 9.